is a co-founder of iBuild. He is a Navy veteran and innovative social entrepreneur. His expertise to various social issues around the globe. He is an accomplished CEO with international leadership experience, first in finance, then in fishing industry. He's ultimately invested his experience in affordable housing innovation, where he pioneered housing production strategies through PPPs in the US, resulting in thousands of homes. And of course, on his side, this morning, very late in the morning, Cezanne Merali, Head of Policy for Uber Sub-Saharan Africa. We all use one of the other, and this is the policy of Sub-Saharan Africa. In this all, she leads governance and activities. Move from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, and also leading policy engagement since 2016, the previous engagement manager with McKinsey company. She has a BCom in Macquarie University, an MBA from INSEAD in France and Singapore. Suzanne, happy to have you. The third discussion is the answer, who is only 24 years. Rachel is a well-skilled freelancer specializing in content article writing. She enjoys this work and it's her passion and has been writing. Writing is her main drive. So we are happy to hear from Rachel today. Rachel, karibu sana. There are many youngsters who are looking up to role models like you, and I hope that you will give them some insights. We have a lot of youngsters who need long this important topic that has. So allow me just to kickstart meeting. We are doing well with time. And I just want to be consistent for our discussion today. The program looks like this. We will have Carol Karuga, the CEO of KEPSA, after my setting, followed by Ben Roberts, and our chief guest speaker, PS Jerome Ochieng, will come in after the two panelists have spoken. So once again, we would like to welcome you all to this important webinar on the future of work, digital jobs. The webinar is part of ongoing KEPSA effort in supporting businesses and the entire Kenyan economy in responding to COVID-19 disruption. This webinar is of a crucial and urgent topic that will be a priority in volumes for months to come. It is on the fundamentals of our economics and social nation. We'll be exploring new frontiers of creating jobs while addressing the need for businesses as a priority topic in the wake of COVID-19, as we'll be hearing from different panelists. To this end, of course, I would like to thank the Ajira Digital Project team, led by Dr. Ehud Gashugu, for sponsoring this particular webinar, and the future of jobs and how businesses can benefit from emerging digital workforce to build resilience and recovery from the COVID pandemic. We know these are actually a very ambitious initiative that aims at transforming lives of our youth through digital and digitally enabled jobs, which we will hear more about in the subsequent presentations by the panelists. Please mute in the background, there's a bit of noise. So I want to just talk about the importance or role of ICT in the Kenyan economy in terms of driving digital and digitally enabled opportunities. With regards to ICT sector's contribution to the Kenyan economy, in terms of the value that the sector contributes, we've seen GDP growing, if you check the chart to your left, and as it grows, you also see in the block, bars in block, the value added to the economy by ICT. It's a great opportunity and driver for our GDP growth. Even the GDP
Victor, we're really struggling to hear you, Victor. We're really struggling to hear you. It's breaking up a lot, yeah?
Am I clear now, or may I just have to restart my system?
That's better. Let's try and rush through the presentation.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. All right. So then the number and value of mobile transfers, we can see.
Mister, we can hardly hear you. Can Ehud cover this part so that we just finish, because we'll delay. We can hardly hear you.
Maybe someone else can cover the part.
Allow me, I will come to my part, but then just allow me to invite, as I sort out my side of the connection, allow me to invite Carol Karuga to talk to us about growth in digital and digitally enabled opportunities. As we've seen more companies digitize and startups grow, I will be flipping from my end as I try to sort out this connection so that you can hear me. Carol, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, PS. Good to have you again, and thank you for your partnership and support to us as KEPSA and the private sector. I'll go very fast because so that we can go into the discussions and the panel. And then there's enough time for Q&A. So in the last decade, we have seen significant growth in digital and digitally enabled opportunities as more companies digitize and startups starts to grow. Just just looking at 2015 and the number of organizations that have had a presence now, and between 2015 and 2019, they've almost doubled, with 87% increase in organizations which have registered domains. Moreover, there are many new startups that are leveraging digital technology and creating vast digital and digital-enabled opportunities across a range of sectors. So we have in agriculture, you can see Mshamba, Twiga, DigFarm, MFarm. You can see in education, Eneza, Mshwali. I won't even go to all the details. You can see the ones in energy. You can see the ones in finance. You can see the health ones. You can see logistics and transport. And this is just an illustrative list. There are many, many, many more and in other sectors. But just to tell you where we are as a country and where we are as a world and where we are moving to. And so it's very encouraging to see a lot of these that are homegrown, digitally enabled opportunities across the different sectors. Moving on. So in the digital economy, you also see the features of digital and digitally enabled opportunities. A lot of what's leading that is the high degree of flexibility and control on what, when, and where work is done for both the employer and employee. The task-by-task nature of work, the payment can be done per task, and use of technology as an enabler. So there's such efficiency and flexibility that is making a lot of this grow. And the digital jobs are divided into two. There's the tech intensive and there's the tech reliant. This is work, for the tech intensive, this is work directly dependent on the use of ICT and requires high digital skills from the workers. So we have the Upwork and Figure 8 and others. And then we have the tech reliant. This is the work that requires both tech skills, literacy to link supply and demand. Youth with intermediate digital skills can access these jobs opportunities in Kuhaso, Fuzu, Jumia, and others. Then we have digitally enabled jobs, and these are the tech is used as a tool to efficiently source for the right worker. Service provider thought could also be sourced through traditional methods. This is the Uber, the iBuild, and the Airbnb. So this is how we have the digital jobs, which are divided into those two. And then if we look at the pre-COVID time, the number of people working digital and digitally enabled jobs was already gaining a lot of momentum. And so we already had about 677,961, which were estimated number of online workers in Kenya as of March 2020. And that gave about $109 million in terms of the size of the gig economy in 2019. 33% expected growth of the economy online Kenya gig economy over the next 5 years. So that's the growth we're expecting. Then we have what we call, with all that's happening, we as KEPSA and the Ministry of ICT Innovation and Youth Affairs, and at the beginning of 2017, with the support of, we worked on what we started calling the Ajira Digital Program. And that time it was a pilot program. And just to bridge the gap between the skills and demand and the jobs. But this year, we expanded that program and we have new partners. That's MasterCard Foundation. And I know Daniel will speak a lot more about this. And then we also work very closely with Dalberg as a part of the team that is, Team Dalberg and Team KEPSA is really handling on the private sector side of the project and working, making sure that we're working with many other partners in the different areas. And so the Ajira Digital Program seeks to position Kenya as a choice labor destination for multinational companies, as well as encourage local companies and public sector to create digital work. The objectives of the program are to enable access to digital and digitally enabled employment for all Kenyans, raise the profile of online work amongst all Kenyans, promote a continuous and mentorship and collaborative learning approach, promote Kenya as a destination for digital work. And then the pillars are access to training and mentorship. This is offering training to equip youth with skills for the dynamic digital job ecosystem, access to infrastructure, empowering youth through provision of infrastructure, financial and regulatory support, access to dignified work, enabling both government and private sector to create opportunities for growing supply side workers, awareness, availing relevant and actionable information to build trust and confidence. So the impact to date, we have over 200 Ajira youth empowerment centers rolled out countrywide. Over 50,000 youth have trained to date. 40 Ajira digital clubs established in universities and TVET institutions. Over 120,000 youth registered on the Ajira portal. And then over 638,000 Kenyans have sourced work from digital and digitally enabled jobs as per household survey carried out. And this, and maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, this is a backdrop of what we did with Kenya KYOP when it was KYP. That was a program that we ran with the World Bank and the Ministry of Youth, as it was known then. And that was a pilot that we did over 4 years ago, and which was very successful. And we are looking forward to rolling out together with the government, the KYOP, as part of this, so that those who cannot do the online jobs have something else they can do, so that we can cover as much ground for the young people. In the wake of COVID-19, organizations have had to think differently and act quickly to embrace ICT for business resilience and recovery. And I'll give some examples, like retail, because of COVID impact, there was reduced consumer spending, there was reduced foot traffic, there's disruptions to supply chains, and so they're moving online. And we've seen people like Naivas have ramped up its e-commerce efforts through its partnership with Glovo, and they have reduced the price of home deliveries. Then you have the education side. All physical education institutions were closed because of COVID. And so we've seen education institutions where feasible have turned online to continue their learning. Ministry of Education, in partnership with Ministry of ICT, are using national radio and TV services to broadcast learning programs for students. And we've seen that with KBC and Zoom and Teams, increased use of digital communication tools such as that. In agriculture, we also saw disruptions to supply chains as flights and all that were grounded, closure of markets, reduced consumer spending, and farmers are using using social media to reach their customers directly, thus curbing post-harvest losses. Established agriculture-based online marketplaces, have ramped up their operations to reach new customers. And I can even give you for the international market, like the flour industry, many of you know it was one of the ones that was really hit. And you know, flours are very perishable. Once they've grown, like you can't even keep them like how you can keep maybe tomatoes for a week. You need to move them and get them out of the farms. And so what some of the private sector companies that grow flowers started doing online marketing. And so they started making some sales through online. So by the time freights were resuming, the market was resuming, they had already started making some sales online, and 40% of their sales was actually resumed as online sales. So we've seen a lot of innovations around the sectors. Health, because of increase in the number of COVID cases in hospitals, we've seen many people not really go into hospitals. And so we had Ministry of Health Emergency Operations Center comprising of 4 rapid response teams, use digital technology to provide information, reach people, track cases, and monitor the COVID situation. But we also have seen a lot of e-health growth where people are reaching their own doctors through e-health and telehealth and all that. So we've seen some of the companies like CarePay and okay, someone moved very fast and they have lost me. Okay, Victor, or whoever is moving their screens. Okay, so I was at health. So we've seen farm access, we've seen CarePay in that area, transport and logistics. Again, we saw disruption to cross-sectoral supply chains, so reduced physical movement, and there has been an increase on demand for courier services. And Glovo is a good example in that area. Online work, many have been forced to work remotely. And so many more people are turning to online work opportunities as a way to generate income. I was talking to some young people the other day, and they said they had really this demand for websites. And so as they're at home, and one of them is a student, that's all he's doing, just developing websites for people and all that. So a new way to generate income. The number of online workers increased by 6% to 677,961 in May 2020 from February 20. Moreover, we have seen COVID-19 has accelerated the adoption of remote work and the value that companies place on work, and we've seen Upwork is a good example of that. Moving on. And so some of the functions and tasks that businesses can leverage through the digital economy: administrative tasks, scheduling, travel arrangements, data entry, typing and other administrative tasks, marketing, website, I've just mentioned websites, brand development, press releases and online marketing, duties such as social media, blogging and search engine optimization. We've seen accounting and financial duties, financial services, including bookkeeping, invoicing and accounts payable and receivables, human resources, employee acquisition, human resource functions, advertising, screening suitable applicants and checking references, lead generation and customer service, sales calls, customer support, research, polling, focus groups and online data evaluation, for example, for a potential new product, logistics, product distribution, and IT, ICT operations, maintenance, and repairs. So these are some of the businesses where we're seeing businesses can leverage the digital economy to do that. Yeah, so I really just wanted to share a bit of that and where we are and where we are seeing growth, where we have come from, but also what we're doing to train young people to say, this is where we are. We are going into the gig economy full blown as a world. And so we need our young people plugging in. And so we've seen many of them plug in on their own, many innovations, but we really want to work through the Jira platform to really get a lot of young people into this area, and so that they can earn a living. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carol. I hope I can be heard now.
I hear you well, yeah.
Thank you very much. Robert, please take on the floor and talk to us about the ICT sector and digital economy during and post-COVID in terms of the ways in which ICT has been embraced to bridge the gaps. Carol has talked has talked a little on some of the examples, but you can proceed from there and tell us of the kind of digital transformation you have seen happen. Karibu.
Okay, thank you. Cool. So welcome everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to KEPSA, and PS, it's good to see you, and lovely to have you here. So maybe I'm going to talk a bit today as to what has taken place and the way that we see, what has been the impact of COVID on the ICT and telco sector, and what it's been on the digital adoption of the whole marketplace. So immediate impacts that have happened directly on us as the ICT and telco sector. Restricted movement around the country for maintenance has been, not too much of a hindrance, but it's there. It's something we have to work around our standard operating procedures. In the main, it's been okay for people in the telecom sectors. There were a few incidents at the beginning. Some companies had harassment of their employees from police, but in the main, things are working okay now. We have had, our own companies, we've had to move people home. Safaricom even moved their entire call centers to people working from home. So a large, move of people who would normally be office-based roles, running the networks, being based from home, having minimal staff in the offices. Delays in imported equipment is a factor and still remains a factor. This is not, part of this is beyond our control, delays in supply chain, particularly from China, and then delays and losses of international flights. And some of these things have been compounded by some of the processes around, when equipment arrives into Kenya, type approvals and other things, and approvals on the Kentrade system have taken longer because some of the people who need to do that have been not in the office. We're having also, customers, a lot of people in a lot of sectors, like hospitality particularly, even universities have been asking for to not pay for their internet and their normal contracted services. They normally pay monthly. But we're seeing an increased shift in demand on the network resources. So traffic on the networks going up, and we're seeing a big demand in people using online tools. Even organizations like KEPSA has had to digitally transform. We would have had these meetings in the KEPSA boardroom, and at the beginning when we started having these meetings for people being online, it was a bit difficult, but everybody has got used to using this, and people have got up to speed in how they do things and making their businesses ICT ready. Been a big push on how you work from home and how you digitize your processes. Companies who've been further down the path in their own digital transformation have found it easier to adapt and have their staff working at home. Those that have been behind on the curve have found it harder. So really, we start to wonder whether the telco ICT sector, there's a potential upside, and we're looking at how we leverage technology to support the other sectors, and then what happens afterwards. Hello. Yeah. So starting what happens afterwards, and it's been quite a while now of living like this. We're starting to see it as being business as usual, the new normal. So I talked about the rapid shift of people working from home. This is what it's meant. I show some graphs here, and some news headlines. But first of all, on the the top left, you see a graph. This is a graph of somebody's offices. This is Liquid Telecom offices, but it's the internet used in the office by the office connection before and after people were working from home. So you see traffic to the office network is largely dropping off. There's still some traffic afterwards because people have ICT systems in the office and they use VPNs to access them. But in the main, people have stopped using the internet in the office. And then you see a news headline, Safaricom. This is not long after. This is April the 13th, but the data traffic on the home network's pushing up 40%. I think it's even more than that now. So people have moved from using the internet in their workplace at the workplace to using the internet at the home on their home internet connection. And then here's a graph on the right hand. This is a graph of use of Microsoft Teams, the different collaboration services within Microsoft Teams within the Liquid Telecom as a whole organization across Africa. And you see, you know, there's regular use by a few different people, and a few different types of the services are being used up until working from home kicks in. And then everybody starts using almost a 5 times increase in use of video chat, collaboration, you know, document sharing and all these things. So people starting to many more people coming on board to start changing the way that they're doing their work. Adoption of Zoom as well. This is having, you know, all these conference calls. It's kind of an open system. So it's been very popular with these webinars where other people from different enterprises are coming together. So the consumer-facing telecoms operators, Safaricom, Zuku, Airtel, they are having an increase in demand on the network, and then those that are servicing mainly business connections are having a lower demand, and this has caused more traffic to be exchanged within the internet exchange points where those networks connect. So what we think is happening, you know, it is we have, as an ICT sector, invested a lot into infrastructure. So the networks have been ready. We've invested in data centers and subsea cables together with government as well, and a public-private partnership to build a subsea cable that has been done. And we've seen a slow, you know, linear adoption of human digital transformation. But in 2020, it's what we're calling the coronavirus accelerant. This is what has kicked off the you know, a force in the change of way humans work. Suddenly you have to work from home. Suddenly you're not allowed to go out. You're not allowed to have meetings. The way that we've been carrying on, and it has actually caused people to adopt the services. The services and infrastructure and applications have been there, but we've actually had a change in human behavior. Next one. Next slide. Okay. So KEPSA has done some initiatives around supporting the efforts in COVID. So, you know, as I say, KEPSA itself is digitized a bit and is having a call center for giving business advice for people who are, you know, having problems. There's also a website, information website that's been provided, and it's been collecting data as well. Various surveys they've been collecting data around the business impact of COVID on different business sectors, SMEs, education, etc. Next one. So this is perhaps when we come to the digital economy, you know, this talks around an important trend that we've seen, and this is actually across the whole of Africa. But we've seen e-commerce in particular, people changing the way, you know, initially at the very beginning, changing the way that they behave with e-commerce. So e-commerce being typically used in Kenya by people buying, you know, high-end consumer goods, or buying phones and laptops and stuff. But the minute that you know, people started working from home, we saw a shift in people using e-commerce to buy consumer goods. You know, that their shopping and their food, seeing a shift towards essential items. And it's continued to grow within e-commerce. E-commerce having more diversity of products, and has really had a shift upwards. The courier companies and you know, people who are doing the deliveries for the e-commerce companies
Okay, looks like we've lost Ben.
Sorry, Ben, your connection is off.
So, you know, this is what's you know, driving forwards. In some countries, there has been a monumental increase. So I think I was hearing in Morocco and Tunisia, we've had like a 300% increase in the uptake on e-commerce. And in those places, there's been actually more than just, you know, that actually government has been really supporting it and really pushing people to make their online deliveries. And there's been a lot of government support for the e-commerce industries, which has really ignited the e-commerce industry. We've also seen a environment of increased coming together for innovation. So in the healthcare sector, we've seen, you know, groups of young people, students, start coming together into groups to start making homegrown medical equipment, start making ventilators, PPEs. You know, the sudden threat that international supply chains might be affected, and we may not be able to import all the produce that we need. Has made people start innovating together and having more partnerships and working things together. You know, one area of technology which really has been used globally, you know, is around data science and artificial intelligence. Countries have been using this to predict the spread of the coronavirus. And, you know, UK were able to predict and send letters to 1.5 million people saying, you know, we've analyzed your symptoms in the past, your medical records, and we were able to predict that you're at risk. So there's a lot more interest from the healthcare sector in using ICT, patient medical records, and starting to use these technologies. And we're seeing that this space is really going to push. And Carol mentioned a few of these companies who are doing online pharmacy deliveries. We're seeing a real uptake in those as well. People doing online consultations with their doctors to avoid traveling to the doctor's surgery. Next one, please. Education is a really big sector as well. So with schools being forced, you know, those schools that have managed to continue learning, some of the schools who already have broadband, particularly the schools in Nairobi, the higher end private schools, have managed to continue some kind of learning by doing online classes. It's going to, schools are now closed for at least until September the 1st, and we're hearing there'll be some staged opening. You know, those schools without any kind of broadband connectivity have been really failing to do anything, and particularly some the private school sector are having real problems in getting fees collected to pay for the salaries of teachers because they're not able to offer any learning. So operators have been rising to the challenge. They've been doing partnerships with education content companies, and we've seen a few announcements in this where some of the telcos have announced 0 rating to certain partnerships they have with education content companies. And we in Liquid Telecom, in my job, we had previously connected 310 schools in partnership with the Universal Service Fund. And we've really been working with those companies and with other partners like Microsoft and helping those teachers to start learning how to deliver online classes. And it's having had, you know, the necessary infrastructure in place, they have been able to have some sort of, you know, path to do this. You know, the pickup, the capacity still needs to be built in the teachers and how to do these online classes. But with the infrastructure in place, has enabled them to move into this process. Those schools that don't have any broadband really are just, you know, they're not in a position to start making this transition. Next slide, please. So as we conclude, I think let's talk about, you know, what is it that private sector is going to need and the ICT sector is going to need to not really throttle this. We're seeing an uptick in this digital economy, and we don't want to stop this train now. So the critical nature of the broadband telecommunications has been recognised, and I think really been appreciated. But emerging sectors like e-commerce suddenly playing a critical role. They're delivering you know, medical supplies to people in need, and although they have been allowed and permitted to move around, they have not been in any way gazetted or recognised as being a critical service in the same way that telecommunications has. So we need that critical role to be recognised. The movement of essential services to maintain broadband, you know, is going to become, or is now part of the security of the country, and we need to keep that going. Streamlining of telecoms equipment import process. As I say, we've been affected in global supply chains by delays anyway. And now, you know, for those delays, those streamlining, there's been some improvements, but still we're having a lot of delays with importation processes. And then, you know, there is quite a lot of duties and extra taxes on broadband. There's a 16% VAT plus a 15% duty on broadband at the moment. There's a couple of points here that this is an earlier version of the slide that I sent to KEPSA, but I had raised that, you know, right now we're seeing Hello. Hi. Yeah. So the later version I said we're seeing now perhaps a whole bunch of new taxes being imposed on the digital economy. There's the simplified VAT, which is the regulations have just come out following on for the 2019 finance bill. And now we're having a digital marketplace tax, a digital service tax, which is putting some confusing and overlapping taxations onto what is a very emerging and nascent market. So there's a deep concern that some of these taxations are coming in at the wrong time and in the wrong way, and they need to be looked at very carefully. And we call for the support of the ministry in some of the issues around these taxes. And the other point is that the innovation that's happening and digital services that are coming from Kenyan innovators, if government can work to actually consume and buy and buy Kenya, build Kenya with these services, particularly in healthcare, education. If government can not put up barriers to certification and regulators, make it easy and accessible for the certification and regulation of these innovations to take place, and then move on to be able to purchase these companies, goods from these companies. So that's the key ask we have, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ben. You've covered it very well. And now, drawing down from Carol's presentation and your presentation, I would like to invite the PS for ICT and Innovation within the Ministry of ICT. PS Jerome, you've had the two panelists. How Carol touched on examples of how businesses have sprung up to adopt, to digitally transform some of their functions, with great examples in terms of intervening during this time of COVID. A lot of these functions, a lot of this transformation that companies have begun are going to remain permanent, and we can only hope that they'll strengthen in the post-COVID era. There's so much transformation that has happened that it's not going to be reversed, and it's going to be the new normal for companies. And I think it's that time that we as a country need to step back and just relook at the whole issue of digital transformation in our country as a main driver to leapfrog our growth in the next decade. The decade of 2020, 2030 really is going to be the decade of digital transformation and digital economy. Your ministry stands at the very center. The fulcrum of all this is the Ministry of ICT. Could you please just talk to us about some of the government strategies and transformations that you hope to see as a country, using, from your ministry standpoint, on what is it that is going on, and trying to address some of the issues that already we can see as we move forward, but also some of the issues that Ben has also raised. So Karibu Sana PS Jerome to talk to us over the next 15 minutes, if you can cover that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Let me first of all start by really appreciating the organization of this webinar, in the sense that it really gives us an opportunity to speak to one another and actually see, as industry players, what can we do together. And policy of government, if you realize nowadays, is an all-inclusive kind of approach in every other activity that we've been doing. Really, as a ministry, and if you are now aware, we now have the ministry with the element of youth on board. So it is ICT, innovation, and youth. So the fact that we were actually going to discuss about job creation has really been an area of great concern to us as government. It's for that reason that really we have, as a ministry, have taken great interest in this particular webinar, to just hear the conversation and also make a contribution as government in terms of what we are doing. So the area of youth, the area of employment, the area of job creation, the area of economic growth is really of great concern to us, and we really take all effort to understand and to also participate in such forum. The more reason why, even in the last webinar, I participated to the end. Equally, I'll do so in this one because of the importance we are putting in on the youth factor. Having said that, let me get back to the conversation and start by saying really, COVID-19 pandemic has created an unprecedented global crisis. From our point of view, the prolonged cessation of movement, you know, I hear people talking about lockdown. As we really didn't get to the extent of a lockdown, we're actually talking about cessation of movement and curfew, quarantine, physical distancing, and other measures to mitigate the pandemic has really created a scenario whereby businesses have to reorganize because social interactions have been affected. Then you realize that the non-essential services have particularly been hard hit by the pandemic, which has led to reduction in the number of working hours and actually job losses in some cases. For many white-collar workers, the pandemic has meant that really people have to work remotely. You realize also that for many service workers and blue-collar workers, it has provided a window into a future where machines may displace people, especially as firms consider increasing automation to enhance their future resilience. For those in the care economy, health, and education sector, it has led to a long overdue global recognition of the significance of ICT and technology. For many in the informal and gig economy, it has really exposed the fundamental need that really there are opportunities in the gig economy. So having said that, we are moving to a space whereby we'll be talking about a digital workspace. A digital workspace is also important in the context of digital workforce because it lowers the dependency of physical work location. As the pandemic continues to shift how business operate, the digital workforce and the digital workplace will play a critical role in building a resilient business environment by lowering operational heads. These new ways of getting work done are leading us into to break with the traditional rigid structures and instead concentrate on innovation and efficiency. I'll tell you, webinar, for example, video conferencing has become the new normal, especially even in government. And from the highest level, from the highest offices, video conferencing has really become the normal way of doing business. I'll tell you for sure, cabinet meetings are normally held through video conferences. PSS meetings are held, heads of department meetings within government, which was really something that was really unprecedented, especially in government. Therefore, for many organizations, the pandemic has hastened the arrival of the future of work, and many are beginning to imagine life after COVID-19. This, however, should not be a reason to panic, but really for us to recognize that the pandemic has provided an opportunity to lay down a foundation for us to exploit new technologies, to automate our businesses, and also upskill our workers to build a resilient workforce capable of performing in diverse ways and up to and including during the pandemic. Let me talk about some of the pre-COVID-19 development in ICTs that has put us in a fairly good platform. Probably, unlike many other countries, you will find knee-jerk reactions. But I would say that, well, as much as the pandemic caught us off guard, we were not badly off in the sense that there are certain initiatives as government that we had started, bearing in mind, you had Carol mention the Ajira project that we had started way back in the year 2017. And our running call was always, the future of work is online. So basically the future of work being online is something that we had thought about well before, and it is really coming to fruition in the sense that people are beginning to now understand that when we said the future of work is online, this is actually what we really meant, that online is going to be our next platform through which we would work. Therefore, COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of digital readiness, which allows business and life to continue as usual as much as possible. We realize that today, there's an estimated 70% in an internet penetration, largely in Kenya, largely supported by mobile networks. Therefore, mobile telephony penetration is a near saturation and can be attributed to a number of factors. I know I've had, please note, I was actually taking note as all the speakers were speaking, especially on issues that was affecting or relates to concerns that government needs to take action on. Previously, we had the abolition of the 16% value-added tax levied on mobile phones by government. That was way back in the year 2009. And this really contributed greatly to the provision and the acquisition and the growth of the ICT sector within the government. We also see clearly the rise of a business, digital business environment due to the introduction of mobile money payments. You realize that really, let's accept it, that the fact that Kenyans embraced way before mobile payment platform really helped in the growth of many businesses and also many digital business. So the digital business ecosystem was really enhanced by the fact that there was a structure, there was a platform that would have been used to pay. Therefore, you go through your business framework and payment is equally also received digitally. So it's for that reason also that even as government, you realize that we brought many of our applications online. Many government services are online through the e-government portal. So appreciating the fact that the establishment of a digital payment platform provided an opportunity to leapfrog in the development of many digital applications and also the digital private environment. So building the necessary infrastructure to support a digitized world and stay current in the latest technology will be essential for any business or country to remain. I'm happy to hear the young people are really appreciating the fact that they have been having people to contact them in terms of building websites for them. Again, an opportunity for our young people to work online. Therefore, cognizant of this, the government has for the last 10 years invested in infrastructure and also enabling policies that will spur growth in the digital ecosystem. These policies and legislative framework form part of government's agenda to ensure that Kenya is not left behind in this fourth industrial revolution. In terms of infrastructure, let me say Kenya has invested heavily on the ICT infrastructure, spanning the entire nation. I know Robert mentioned about the undersea cable. We are proud to actually talk about, to date, currently, we have 3 cables landing in Mombasa, the Seacom, the Easy, and the Teams, as a very necessary and a primary infrastructure to help us in enhancement of broadband. In addition, the government has invested also on an NOFB, the National Optical Fiber Infrastructure, which forms part of its ICT-related projects that has enhanced connectivity in all the 47 counties. It's for that reason also the county commissioners are actually able to do video conferencing without any problem. There has also been a lot of emphasis on skills development, that recognizing the potential of the digital economy, our ministry has made strides in creating digital and digital enabled job opportunities. Without repeating what Carol had said, the Ajira digital platform has actually we have more than 120,000 youths registered on this platform, and a much more achievement has been made. And this has also been enabled by the fact that we've been working very closely with the private sector. So today we are happy to note that the Ajira digital program is being scaled with the support of MasterCard Foundation, working together with KEPSA and eMobilis. The project intends to equip youth with skills. This was mentioned. And also we want to have the government and the private sector to create an opportunity whereby as government, we are creating more digital jobs. And there has been plans towards this direction. You must have heard us talking about the digitization of the Ministry of Lands, the digitization of the judiciary, the digitization of our police service with the digital OB system. So basically a policeman gets to the crime scene, you don't have to be taken to the cells. The details about that particular crime is picked on site, or an opportunity for instant finding and things like that. So basically we are saying that government itself has taken an opportunity to ensure that as many as is practical government services are going online. There was issues relating to the enhancement of the e-commerce ecosystem. And one of the greatest foundation of this is normally having a digital addressing system. So there is work that has been going on in terms of our national addressing system to just ensure that in terms of infrastructure, we are building the requisite infrastructure to enhance the e-commerce. In terms of policy and the regulatory environment, we have established and developed the National ICT Policy, what we are calling the National ICT Policy 2019. You may be aware that as a country, we launched our digital economy blueprint that has been focusing on 5 key areas, one of them being infrastructure, digital government, digital private sector, innovation and entrepreneurship, and also digital skills. So we've also come up with what we are calling the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act to look at just the legal aspect of it. But then last and not least, I would want to mention the fact that we have really made very great strides, and even more or less like worldwide, in coming up with the Data Protection Act. I know many countries are still struggling with this, but then for us, we have our Data Protection Act having been passed by Parliament. It was a long journey, yes, but finally we really have it, because the digital economy relies heavily on data to improve its service, and therefore the existence of this act is really, really important. We're actually in the process of recruiting the data commissioner that is also very much at an advanced stage. Then it's important to mention that all this effort, these enablers and market openness have made Kenya an attractive investment destination for many ICT multinational organizations who have chosen to host their regional offices, and for some, their entire African operation in Kenya. If we may move to the COVID-19 response, I must say that the crisis has brought a greater appreciation of the fact that humans and technology are more powerful working together. There has been concern, and I think I would want to speak to that, at the speed at which we are picking technology in the health sector. I know Ben Roberts mentioned about this, but I would wish to confirm, Ben, that really there has been some very great effort and extensively indeed to ensure that really we embrace the issue of digital medicine or telemedicine or technology in the medical space, that this is really enhanced. I would want to also just emphasize that we are also happy not to be saying that we are doing a knee-jerk reaction. We had way back in our note, universal healthcare has been one of the big 4 agenda that His Excellency the President has been working on. Therefore, as a ministry, we were charged with the responsibility of ensuring that technology is part and parcel of our health sector. So we started the journey of digitization in the health sector a while back, and this is a work that is still going on. The education sector has also not been left behind, and I know all the speakers have also mentioned this. So we have in the education sector, for example, our Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, having deployed learning materials on the cloud, and learners are able to access this. This again provides an opportunity for learners and teachers to access school curriculums from the comfort of their homes. And I know there has been complaint about some people from the marginalized areas not being able to access this. But again, also we moved in very much fast as government to ensure that we are providing access to those underserved or unserved areas. Project Loon was launched, which again is also a government and a private sector collaboration. This is also work in progress, and we are saying within the next few months, we have an opportunity of having 100% 4G coverage across the whole country, which is also another very good thing. But then as a ministry, beyond COVID-19, what we are seeing is that with the new reality setting into our lives, ICT will play a major role in creating digital and digitally enabled opportunities. We anticipate to have the following in the sector: that we have an accelerated shift towards digitization across all government. I've just mentioned some of the projects that we had started. We very soon going to have a digitized judiciary, a digitized land system, a digitized police. So there are a number of digitization that are almost reaching their end. The beauty is that I would want to say that COVID provided an opportunity for us to move faster than we had anticipated, and it's even good that we had started. People are beginning to see the importance of technology in this particular space. Therefore, we also look forward to seeing an increase in digital technology adoption also across the business sector. And I'm happy also to learn that, to hear that the business sector has not been left behind in this. We're seeing a lot of e-commerce coming into play, and many other sectors embracing technology in this particular area. Prioritization of access to mobile devices and virtual desktop infrastructure. This again is a program that we are working in with as government, and also accelerated investment in the ICT infrastructure, including cloud computing platforms, fiber to the homes, connectivity. Again, these are areas that as government, we are committed to work together with the private sector to make sure that we realize this. As I conclude, let me say that digital transformation is for every business and organization, regardless of the industry. In the post-COVID world, if an organization is not on a strategy of digital transformation journey, therefore, they really stand a very big chance that they may be left behind. However, as organizations pursue automation and deployment of the digital workforce, they also need to be cognizant of the fact that automation in itself has its own share of challenges. And some of these challenges will be on issues relating to processes, whereby we keep on emphasizing that automation of broken promises will not necessarily lead to desired outcomes. Therefore, automation must be done in a very good way in terms of ensuring that we are automating processes that are cleaner. Change management is a key factor. Capacity building and training obviously cannot be overemphasized. But last but not least is that as we move to this digital space, we need to be cognizant of the fact that cybersecurity becomes a very big challenge. I hear a lot of concerns of parents talking about the security of their children as they are learning, as they are online learning. There is a lot of social engineering. A lot of crime now have actually shifted from the traditional way of crime to online. Therefore, as we move towards this space also, a lot of emphasis need to be put in terms of cybersecurity and ensuring that our cyberspace is secure and our users are also secure. So I think with that, I think I've taken through the journey of some of the things we have done, some of the things we're doing, the legislative environment, and the journey that we want to walk along with you post-COVID. I mean, we've been told probably COVID is here to stay with us, but when I say post-COVID is quote unquote, at the point that when we begin now opening our businesses and we begin getting to the new normal, as a ministry, we are committed to working with the private sector to ensure that we achieve most of the concerns that have been raised here. Thank you for listening, and I think I'll stop there, but again, we'll be ready to pick up questions as we move along with the conversation. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you very much, PS. Wow, you've covered a lot of groundwork that we really needed to hear from you. The vision of the government in terms of digital transformation of this country. And you've covered digital government, the need for businesses not only to digitize, but also ethical businesses, even as we do digitalization of businesses. The work that government is doing on the ICT infrastructure end of it, innovation-driven entrepreneurship, as we'll hear from our youngsters coming just shortly, and the need to develop a digitally skilled workforce that is grounded on sound ethical practices and social cultural values. There seems to be a lot that government is doing, and we pride ourselves as the Silicon Savannah in Africa with being a home to over 200 tech startups in this country. But also we don't seem to be seeing a lot of movement in the front of digitization of businesses. Are businesses lagging behind the government? Is this a case where government is moving ahead of businesses? That is left for the entrepreneurs here to tell us, because from what the peers has presented, there's a lot that the ministry is doing, and the business are doing a bit of catch up. So we will be hearing all that in the conversations that we'll be having. Allow me to invite MasterCard, Daniel Hailu, the regional head of MasterCard, to just give us a short presentation, and then Timothy, and then we'll open it up. Meanwhile, friends, if you have any question, use the group chat panel and just key in your question. We'll be able to pick it up. This is the moment now that you've had the 3 panelists, including our peers. As we bring in 2 more panelists, please, if you have any question, put it on the panel, and also ask our panelists and discussants to look on the group chat panel so that you can pick questions directed to you. As you make your presentation, you can also address them. Thank you very much. Daniel, you are most welcome.
Okay, great. Victor, thank you very much. And I'll be remiss if I just didn't go back and mention, so we're similar but different from MasterCard. So I'm the regional head for the MasterCard Foundation. The MasterCard company itself is a separate entity, so I just wanted to be clear on that before we jumped in. So thank you, Victor. Really enjoyed listening to the panelists, starting with Carol, Ben, and the PS. Really laid out an excellent foundation, I would say, for the conversation we're going to have for the next few minutes. And I would say from the MasterCard Foundation side, you know, the discussion that was that we're going to have, and we heard the input from the PS on the relevance of young people when it comes to the digital economy, is exactly one of the key elements for our thinking and our approach, our strategy for Kenya and for Africa. And then just listening to Ben and Carol as well, you know, the environment, especially here in Kenya, is well positioned to enable the growth. Having said that, I think we're going to hear as we go on in the discussion, what are the hindrances? You know, what is stopping? What is impeding the ability of those that are interested, those that are able to grow businesses and scale businesses, so they can create employment opportunities for young people, for those that are interested, and I think that's where we come in, right? It's the linking the environment that has been laid out by government, and also making sure that it links to opportunities that allow for businesses to come in and not only start up, but also thrive, scale, so they can actually create meaningful, dignified work opportunities. So with that said, the MasterCard Foundation is not new to Kenya. However, we have, I would say, made a shift in the last year to really focus our attention on the topic of work and employment. So our strategy is Young Africa Works, and we've got a very bold target that we've set, and is to enable 30 million young people across Africa, particularly focused on young women, to secure dignified and fulfilling work by 2030. So this is the journey that we've started, and I'd say that we're less than a year into it. We actually launched our strategy with His Excellency, and actually, Carol, you were there as well, I recall, about a year ago. We've done quite a bit of work, slightly disrupted because of COVID-19, but nevertheless, we've also shifted, we've adjusted, and we continue to work on our strategy. But I would say the way we intend to achieve, the way we intend to pursue this very bold target is based on an approach of, first and foremost, focusing on developing the human capital here on the continent. And that touches on basic education, that touches on tertiary education, including TVET, so that once you've built the human capital, you're now primed and you're now ready to start supporting the demand side, the business side, the private sector side, if you will. And that comes in different flavors and shapes. So we're not only looking at jobs in the typical sense, but we're also very keen to support and enable entrepreneurship, small businesses to thrive. And that typically requires support from a financial access perspective. And so that's a key area of focus for us. And then also to make sure that we're creating the linkage between the human capital that's been developed and the opportunities for employment and work as well. It's not always obvious in terms of how those two connect, so very intentional on how we make that happen. All of this underlaid with a circle around it that clearly points in the direction of digital is a part of the conversation in every sector, whether it's agriculture, whether it's health, whether it's creatives. Digital is the one common denominator that we see running across all sectors. So therefore, we look at digital as an enabler that is essential in nature and one that requires us as a foundation to understand not only the environment with which we're working in, but also the gaps as well. So we talked about connectivity. We're having a lot of discussions at this point around devices from a educational perspective. Just because you have a cloud solution, how do people that don't have devices access it? So looking at it from a very holistic perspective. Just moving on to be very specific on Kenya. Kenya for us is one of the, next page please. Kenya for us was actually one of the first countries that we launched our Young Africa Work strategy in, as I mentioned. And as you can see here in the middle of the page, the digital economy features strongly in how we view our role in enabling the enablement of work for young people. And again, it's broad, it's cross-cutting. We think of it as also a very critical role that's played by digital in terms of leveling the playing field for young women as well. So young women in particular are disadvantaged when it comes to accessing employment. It's not a phenomenon that's unique to Kenya, or it's a phenomenon that's not unique to the continent. However, we do feel that digital work can have that leveling of the playing field effect. So therefore, that's another reason why we feel so strongly about digital. Scaling is also more practical. Again, once you get past the device and connectivity challenges, scaling becomes much more effective with a digital business model. And it's also one that we're working to understand. How do we make sure that it's clear for young people that it is a source of work that can be dignified and fulfilling? Sometimes there's a bit of a view that digital online work may not be viewed as real work. And again, for those of us on this call here, because we're here and listening and part of this conversation, that may feel a bit odd, but if you were to speak to people perhaps that are not familiar with what online work means, there's that phenomena of, well, is that real work? Can I actually earn a living from it? And that's something that we're very focused on in terms of understanding how we get past that. And again, another key element that we're really interested in is that, it doesn't matter where you are. As we're seeing today, we're all calling in, dialing in from different locations, and digital work can be done whether you're in a metropolitan city, you're in a large city, or you're in a rural location. So again, this leveling of the playing field effect, making sure that vulnerable communities are able to participate and partake in the growth opportunities that digital offers. And last but not least, and I'm gonna share my few minutes with my colleague, Patrick Karanja. He's the MasterCard Foundation Digital Economy Program Lead. I would just say that, we are here and participating in this conversation, because we also understand there's so much to be learned that allows us to be more effective in terms of how we support the scaling of digital employment work opportunities going forward. So listening for us is essential, part of our key values, and we look forward to the rest of the conversation. So if you'll allow me, Victor, I'm going to give the rest of my very few minutes to my colleague Patrick, just to take us through the remaining sections of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Patrick is a great guy. I think we've worked with him, and happy to know that you're actually co-presenting this with him.
Thank you, Victor, so kind, and thank you, Daniel, for that start. And I'll talk about the delivery. So Daniel has shared about our thinking and how we are looking at how the digital economy is an enabler across multiple sectors. We have those three priorities. The first one being supporting the growth of micro and small and medium enterprises. And in this respect, we are working with Equity Bank and Equity Group Foundation as our partners to grow and scale MSMEs through training and access to finance. We have another partnership in a program with Kenya Commercial Bank and Kenya Commercial Bank Foundation, which is providing technical training in agriculture, construction, and manufacturing, as well as in business development services, just building the capacity of young people to be effective and to learn how to build enterprises. We're also looking at improving access and supporting the improving access to financial services and markets for 2 million smallholder farmers living in arid and semi-arid areas in Kenya and Rwanda. On the second priority of training and linking youth to digital enabled work, a lot has been said about Ajira, and we have been supporting and we see the opportunity in Ajira. Our support is in five areas. And the first one is the operationalizing of Ajira youth employment centers around the country, about 101 of them. And we're looking at how do you, in supporting the building of the capacity, the rollout of the centers, and building the capacity by having center managers who then become point of contact for young people. These centers will help young people access infrastructure and overcome the barrier of device and infrastructure. Getting a laptop or a device is not the easiest of things and is a barrier to many young people. But internet and data, and I'm seeing some of the chats in the group, is also one of the things that will be helped to, or will help to overcome by having this in partnership with the Ministry of ICT. We are also looking to train young people on how to access online opportunities or online job opportunities, about 900,000 of them. And our partners in this space will be eMobilis and KEPSA. We also see a great opportunity for unlocking digital jobs opportunities in the domestic or local markets. And that will involve working with the private sector to find where those opportunities are, to see how you can catalyze that and to stimulate demand for the talent that is being developed. We are also thinking about and supporting the training and work placement component. And in this respect, we are working with Moringa School, a mid-intermediary high-end skills training institution. And we're looking at 1,500 women getting trained and having the capacity and ability to work in AI and other advanced skills. We also have a partnership with Ajiri, a platform that is a job connecting and linking and placement platform, but also one that will provide training opportunities for young people in that it has content that is relevant to specific sectors and skills. And this is not limited to just digital jobs, but also in non-digital jobs, such as security guards. The third priority is improving the quality and relevance of the curriculum and training offered by our TVETs. And in this respect, we will be working and are working with a partner called KPA in identifying and working with national polytechnics in line and in partnership with the Ministry of Education. We're also supporting the rollout of the blueprint for TVETs nationally and in engagement of the private sector in contributing to demand-driven skills training, as well as in creating pathways for opportunities. I think the slides have moved, so I will ask that we go to the next slide. I think I have one more, two more. But let me step back a little bit and ask, why are we focusing on digital jobs in Africa? And this has been said, that the PS had already said, which is we see the great increase in the access and opportunities in ICT jobs. But we also heard and have learned that technology companies see a mismatch of skills between those who are graduating, especially tertiary education, most of them being social majors and not STEMs. And we also notice that the largest proportion of young people are in informal sector. Over 80% will be micro entrepreneurs, smallholder farmers, and that creates great barriers in access to finance and markets. And they need support in order to have greater efficiencies and effectiveness. Our response is, as shared with those partnerships above there, twofold in our objectives: expand the number of direct digital workers, and secondly, expand the number of digitally enabled workers. One component that I'd like to add there is also a program that we're working with the KEPSA and the Ministry and the Judiciary. I think was mentioned in the courts. And in that program, we are supporting the digitization of the court system by having over 32 courts move their conversations to transcription. And that will open opportunities for young people as transcribers and also position the government as an anchor client. We also look at the Jira platform as a platform that will be a portal for access to information and linkages and how to navigate and get access to online work. With respect to
Patrick, may I just ask that you pause from there? We'll come back to just finalize on some of the remaining thoughts. We are already 90 minutes since we started. And if you don't mind, we'll come back. I know I also have Daniel next. I have Timothy rather next. But I want to just pause it because people are burning with some questions here, and over 90 minutes, adults cannot concentrate anymore until they can talk. So please, if you don't mind, if you can finish on this particular slide, then I can open it up. We'll of course come back to you as people ask questions. You can bring in some of the thoughts that you think will respond to those questions.
Victor, that would be great. Actually, the last two slides on our response to COVID-19, but these two slides have covered a lot of our partnerships and the work that we're doing. And it's okay if we get the questions and respond to our audience as well.
Thank you so much. I now want to open it up. Our participants, great to see that you're still holding on together. And I think we've already had enough content and enough inspiration. The question I wanted to ask, and I already asked it to the peers, is the government moving a lot faster than businesses can take the opportunities that are available? Let's hear from our participants. Anybody with a question at this stage for the next 10 minutes before we move to the next presenters. This is the opportunity, please. Please raise up your hand. We are a bit many, we may not be able to see you, but if you raise up your hand, we'll be able to pick you out. Erastus Ouko, please, you may unmute yourself and talk to us.
Thank you, Victor. I have a question that maybe any of the panelists can take up. What are the opportunities, especially for practical opportunities for youth in terms of getting into the labor market that are probably new opportunities? And is there some research that has been done? Because there are some sectors that are dying. Can I shoot a second question that might be related, or one is enough?
Opportunities for young people to get into the labor market, what do you mean by that?
I mean, in terms of new trends, where are we headed? Because there are some jobs that will die. We've been told about the digital economy, the way things are changing. Practical opportunities for young people to get into the labor market. My other question is about, do we have numbers of what the number of people who have lost jobs, out of the pandemic and probably regress and something like that?
Thank you so much. Jake Jr. Okay, let's take.
Yes. Okay. I had a question to Bwana PS. My question is basically revolving around he mentioned something on digitization of government services, and in this case, he mentioned largely the judiciary adopting the transcription services. So my question is, when is this scheduled to begin? And what will be the modalities?
Sorry, we lost you, Jake, but I think we understand your question, the transcription of courts, court cases. May we have Laban Cliff?
Thank you, Victor. Appreciate it. This is just to
please introduce yourself as you ask or respond to the panelists.
Sure. Thank you, Victor. My name is Laban Cliff. I'm representing the Presence Delivery Unit, but particularly on this call, I was interested to join in as a run-up into the conversation we had yesterday with the Minister of ICT, Youth and Innovation. And just to reemphasize what the Principal Secretary has said, is that thanks to MasterCard, that we are going to have the Ajira program. In what he sees, of course, the CS is that the Ajira program is going to expand in what he says as tenfold. So I know that is also kind of touching into what the youth in this call have kind of asked, which is what are the opportunities that are being presented in these unprecedented times? So perhaps this is a good opportunity to plug into the program on ajiradigital.go.ke to just find out more. And thank you to KEPSA as well for the great partnership. Thank you, Victor. Back to you.
Victor?
Hello.
Over to you, sir. Thank you very much for the chance.
Hello.
We can't hear you, Victor.
Hello?
We can't hear you, Victor, at all.
Okay, why don't we have any response to those questions as we come in? I don't know what the problem is on my end.
Victor, if it's okay, I may start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I think there was the question about what are the opportunities for the youth to get onto the labor market now that the future of work or the kind of work or jobs are changing. Basically, this has always been our running call when we actually ask young people to register on the Ajira Digital. The future of work is changing. There are many, many online job opportunities. And the earlier, and I think the earlier we really get ourselves accustomed to online work, the better. And like one of the speakers has said, sometimes people even begin questioning themselves whether online work is work. I wish to confirm that really you can earn a decent living or even a better living through online work. So there are so many job opportunities online, and actually the earlier people get hooked onto our Ajira Digital, the better, because there will be very many job opportunities there. Second question was with respect to the transcription. I mentioned the fact that we are actually digitizing the judiciary. We are, and I'm saying fortunately, this is a process that we had already started well before. So, and actually COVID, like I mentioned when I was making my presentation, COVID has provided us with an opportunity to move at a pace that is faster than we had expected. So the digitization of the judiciary is in process. very soon when we talk about the court transcription, we are giving ourselves next month, July. Hopefully we will be able to start with the 32 pilot courts. By end of July, we should be in a position to actually have this process ongoing. Why I'm saying this is that these are things that we had already started. So basically, we'll be moving very fast to ensure that we start with the 32 pilot courts that we had already identified. So to answer your question, give ourselves around end of July there, should be able to see these results taking place. Victor, I also found another question I was going through. There was a question relating to taxation. And one of the participants asked about the issue of taxation. I would want to mention the fact that taxation is normally more a KRA issue, but then we have taken note of the concern because let me not just say we didn't have really full consultation. So we will going to have a conversation with the KRA to actually see how to resolve this particular matter. The onus normally, of course, is with the Revenue Authority, but I think as one government speaking from one voice, we should be able to have a conversation and actually bring to the attention the concern of the people, the concern of the industry with respect to this task. So I commit to have this conversation and see how this can be really relooked at. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you so much, Bonapiers. There's a question that one youngster is asking about data that can guide young people in terms of knowing the potential opportunities, digital opportunities, even as we move to the next 5 years. Is this something that we've been able to map out and say over the next 5 years, these jobs are going to become very crucial and they're going to grow so that they can prepare well for this labor market information?
Well, again, like I said, well, maybe not to the next 5 years, but then that is some piece of work that we can also have a look at as a ministry. But I think my recommendation is the earlier you register with the Ajira Digital.go.ke, the better begin to get the new information, the more recent information. Probably the 5-year trend is something we can work on.
I want to maybe add to that. I mean, I think I totally agree with what you're saying, Bonapiers, and some of the jobs, if someone's starting Form 1 now, you know, the job that they might get online in 5 years' time when they enter the workplace may not exist yet. Yes. So asking us to map out what are the jobs of the future is really a difficult one. And I think what Piers is saying is, you know, people need to get online, get on the Ajira platform and find them and explore. Because it is not yet known what these jobs are, what are the jobs people can do. So it is moving very fast. So 5-year advanced mapping is not going to be possible.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Yeah, actually, more or less, you are saying the same thing. So I think you're better off with the dealing with what is there now. So like I said, just to reemphasize what Ben is saying and just to echo what I said previously, the earlier you log in, the better, so that you see what jobs are available now. But then issues about trend and all that will be more or less like academic. But then when you want real work, get onto online now and you'll get the jobs that are available now.
Thank you so much. I'll take Maureen and Evans Akoko. Maureen, go in. Benedict and Joseph, please key in your question to the group chat because I'm yet to call in the next panelist, please. So Maureen and Evans. Maureen, go first.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you to KEPSA and Foundation and partners who are here. My name is Maureen Mutai, Focal Point on Youth Council of Governors. Mine is not really a question, but more of an urge that it will be best if we are able to collaborate, all of us, and especially at the county level, to engage the young people. Because given the platform of the Council of Governors, we're able to reach out to more than 20 million young people in the 47 counties. So it'd be great if you can seize that opportunity and see how do we impact them and how do we empower them through the digital platforms and through the various partners to see how do we scale up to the areas that already has the presence, but maybe still needs more of a spread through and reach out to the grassroots level. So mine is more an urge to the collaboration and open to assist where need be. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Evans. Allow me to invite Timothy. Timothy Munene, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Timothy, there's a bit of echo on your end. If you have two devices that are on, please just turn off one.
Yes, I'm having it.
Timothy, please.
Hello, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Timothy, we are struggling to hear you. Okay. We will come back to you, Timothy. Please just sort out your connection and your mics. Can I bring in at this stage one of our discussants as Timothy prepares his side to speak to us? Cezanne Merali, the head of public policy Sub-Saharan Africa with Uber.
Thank you very much, Victor. I hope everyone can hear me.
Very well, yeah, clear.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this webinar. I think for us, Uber really sits at the heart of the digital economy. And at this moment, we're really concentrating very much on recovery and how we can work together with the country to get everyone back to work. I'm sure everyone is very familiar with Uber, but as a very quick background, I mean, we've been in Kenya now for about 5.5 years. And during that time, we've helped to enable opportunities for over 12,000 drivers in Nairobi and Mombasa. And, you know, I think really to speak to this discussion around work, and, you know, Daniel referred to this, the PS also referred to it, platform work is still relatively new. And so it's great to see the encouraging levels of adoption that we've seen in Kenya. I think just to give you some statistics, globally, out of the 3.5 billion people in the workforce, only about 0.5% are platform workers. So this is a very new innovation and something that really we need to pay attention to, because the potential for it to grow and to help people to earn an income is really, really great. If you could just wait on that, if you could go to the previous slide, please. So Uber sees Kenya as a breeding ground for innovation. I think in the early days, Nairobi was one of the first cities in the world where we launched Cash. And we've also been piloting lots of our new products around low cost, for example, boda bodas and tuk-tuks in Kenya. So the ingredients are really there and the foundation is there for innovation and for digitization. But it's not for us just about creating a platform for work just for the sake of doing so. There's a real focus on making sure that that work is of high quality. And so there's a big role that platforms have to play in ensuring that. When Uber thinks about the future of work, we look at it around 4 dimensions: access, flexibility, protection, and opportunity. Next slide, please. When we look at access, and I think this is something that we've spoken to quite a lot, that there is huge potential for people to get to work on digital platforms. Last year, BCG did a study on online marketplaces in Africa and predicted that about 3 million new jobs would be created by online marketplaces, and about 500,000 of these would be mobility related. And, you know, this is really significant, and it's really important that we help to grow the digital economy in this way, because more people will be able to access job opportunities. Next slide, please. The other piece that's quite significant is around flexibility. Next slide, please. And with the Uber app, the ability to simply press a button and go online whenever you want to work is something that's a feature that people really, really value, and you can press a button to go offline again when you don't want to work. And this really helps you to manage around your schedule. And I think, as we've all observed with COVID, with living at home, people have so many other responsibilities, and being able to manage your day in a flexible way and be your own boss is critical. However, when people associate flexibility, they associate it with, you know, being an independent contractor and not necessarily having those benefits that you would if you were employed. And so as a platform, it's our strong belief that at a basic level, everyone should have the ability to protect themselves and their loved ones if they're injured at work or get sick or when it's time to retire. And I think this notion of digital work with independent work, we've really got to bring up this discussion around protection and how we can ensure that people who are independent workers have the same level of protection as people who are employed. We've taken a first step at Uber by providing injury protection to drivers and riders if they get into an accident on trip. But I think this is only a first step, and there's so much more that we need to do. Next slide, please. When we talk about growth, and the PS alluded to this as well, lifelong learning is really, really critical, and platforms have a huge responsibility around this as well to ensure that we can invest in lifelong learning for people who are working on our platform. And I think just being in the last few months and seeing the effects on COVID, on drivers in particular, with people not being able to move around, the global business for rides has taken a hit by about 80%. And so what we're really trying to focus on is finding new opportunities within our platform for people to engage in digital work. And so, as Carol mentioned in her presentation as well, you know, Glovo cited that they've seen 3 times growth in deliveries, in groceries. And so this is somewhere that Uber is also moving into. And so we want to create the platform where someone can log on to the Uber app. They have the ability to drive around and move people around. They have the ability to do deliveries and move things around. And we are also in discussions with a number of third-party players, including Ajira, on how we can make these third-party opportunities for gig work available to workers on the platform as well. So with that, I will stop and I will hand back to Victor. Thank you so much.
Suzanne. I would like to invite Lewis Kuhlman. Leo, I think it's getting to 4 a.m. on your end, and I know you might be getting tired. So please take on the floor and talk to us about what you've seen in this space of creating solutions. You've done 4 scalable solutions to very complex social issues. What can we learn from you as we move into this space, please? Thank you, Victor.
Fortunately, I have a healthy supply of coffee available, so my energy is still at its peak. Thank you, KEPSA. Thank you, PS, for joining the conversation. For those of you who don't know iBuild, iBuild is an end-to-end platform that essentially organizes the construction housing marketplace, essentially creating the ability for the various users, including workers, contractors, consumers, developers, supply chain, and even services to essentially join the market to provide opportunities for both the formal and informal sector. And I think the biggest gain people have talked about specifically on this webcast is the labor market. How do we join the labor market in the digital economy? That is one of our main priorities and main benefits of the platform, is that we make jobs accessible to workers, creating digital profiles that allow them to be able to get jobs remotely, Now it's extremely difficult with social distancing and with COVID to be able to go to a job site, to stand in large crowds, to be selected. What iBuild is doing is creating electronic CVs that then can be shared with contractors. The technology is geotagged, so it's location sensitive, which allows people to find opportunities within their locality, or if they're moving, to be able to be interviewed prior to actually having to show up on the job site. We've also joined services. One of our recent partners is Britam Insurance, and they are developing new insurance products for workers, specifically for small SMEs, so that they obviously have the ability to participate in the formal economy. And this really, we've seen since the event of COVID, a spike in downloads and registrations. Just in the last month, we've had about 6,000 workers who have registered on the platform and are out looking for jobs and have found many, with the construction economy continuing to work and to open up again. So the labor market is still a very important part of the economy of Kenya, and construction usually accounts for, it's in the top 5 of sectors within the country's market and GDP. And we're very proud of our ability to be able to provide opportunities for each of the segments of the market. And I'll stop there for a moment.
Thank you so much, Leo. I know there are participants here who would have questions for you, and I encourage them to put that on the group chat panel. Timothy, I hope your end of the connection is sorted out and I can have you in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Victor. Apologies for the previous mishap. So, yeah, Bona PS, my fellow panelists, the discussants, OPWAC members, and everyone who has found time to join us. Hamjambo. So before I go right into the presentation, I would like to also introduce OPWAC. So OPWAC is an acronym that stands for Online Professional Workers Association of Kenya. So this is an association that was founded in 2019 out of the need to create global and local visibility for the online digital working community in Kenya. So at OPWAC, we provide a wide range of resources that help the digital workers in Kenya excel in their given professions. So how do we do this? I'll quickly just go through this. So we create awareness. We also do skill development. We advocate for an enabling environment. And we also market Kenya online workers locally and abroad. And we also lobby for job opportunities, which is the biggest issue that we have with online workers in Kenya, the availabilities of jobs. So maybe you can go to the next slide.
Maybe you could tell us how you market online workers in Kenya abroad.
Yeah, so we are working on this, and we are working with KEPSA. I'm happy even for Caro and for KEPSA. I want to thank them especially, the incubating OPWAC. And so we are working with, including the Ministry of ICT, to reach out to countries abroad to see, to broadcast the message that we have plenty of talent in Kenya, and we can work on many of the jobs that are available out there. So, but to do that, we need a platform, which we are also working on, so that when these jobs come from abroad, they can land into a platform where they can be distributed to the online workers in Kenya. But we want to start doing this from home. We want to also activate the private sector in Kenya to embrace digital work. Like you said before, there's a lot of work that is being done from the government side. What about the private sector in Kenya here? Because as you know, most of the Kenyan workers here are getting jobs from companies abroad. Why can't they start getting the jobs from the local companies here in Kenya? So these are the two avenues that we are pursuing: the local market and the international market. So maybe there's a question that you asked when you were starting. You asked about who is a gig worker. So a gig worker is somebody who does small-time jobs. No, small-time job is not the right one. Short-term jobs that, let me use the example of a writer. A writer can be asked to do a blog article, 1 or 2. So that's a gig. It's not a long-term job. So it's a short-term contract after which they're paid, and maybe they can move on to another client or get onto another contract with the same client. So, so Kenya has a lot of talent, especially among the youth, and but access to digital opportunities has been a struggle. This has quite improved with the COVID situation, as people have not realized in Kenya that digital jobs offer a solution, an option that allows people to work not necessarily in the traditional brick and mortar setting. So, but we as OPAC, we find that more should be done to market Kenya as a global outsourcing destination. And this is what we are doing with the OPAC, as I've just explained. So the Kenya private sector and the society has been reluctant to embrace digital work. But with COVID, people are now working online. Even the traditional companies in Kenya are now having their workers working from home. I believe most of us are even accessing this webinar from home. So many people today are working from home, and this is a huge opportunity for us and even the government to take this opportunity to guide the private sector more towards encouraging the private sector to outsource work to the online digital workers in Kenya. So the internet infrastructure and costs have posed a challenge to digital workers. I've just seen a post in the chat where some people are lamenting that the costs, the data service cost is a bit high for the online worker in Kenya, and this has cost many. This has been a barrier for many to join into the digital workforce, and especially in the remote parts, there's a challenge in coverage. There's also a challenge of the costs. So I believe with Ben, with me here, and Bwana PS, these are some of the things that can be looked to so that we can be able to offer our online workers better rates to have more people working and earning online. So lastly, Kenya digital workforce falls short on training on skills that are presently in demand globally. And this is what I wanted to also answer the gentleman who asked the question about what are the opportunities. Yes, and the PS and Ben answered correctly. The best thing is to go in and start working now, because there are already available low-hanging options that you can get into and start earning today. But I would also want to say that we need to look at the fourth industrial revolution, and we see where the trends are heading. And this, in the fourth industrial revolution, the jobs that are there and which the world is going to are jobs including things like AI, blockchain, cloud computing, data science and data analytics, net security, machine learning, Internet of Things, quantum computing, many. But as you can hear, most of these lean toward tech jobs. So my advice will be for anybody who wants to make great careers as a digital worker, the tech skills are the best skills to go for today, because they are the skills for the future. And this is a gap as OPWORK we are trying to fill in trying to upskill our Kenyan workers on skills that are for the future. But again, as Bwana PS said, let us not forget what we have at the moment. Let's not look for, let's consider the bad at hand. So thank you very much, Victor.
Timothy, thank you very much. You've highlighted a question that I actually had. Even for Cezanne, the lockdown and safety concerns, of course, have driven sharply the uptick in demand for deliveries. But again, lockdowns have potentially limited availability of delivery personnel. How are you reconciling that contradiction, that there's an uptick in demand, but also a limitation in availability of delivery of personnel? I will come back to that. Allow me to bring in this youngster to share with us her thoughts on her testimony, basically. Do we have Rachel? Rachel Wanjiru?
Yes, yes.
Please take it on. I'm trying to beam in one of your 2 slides, but you can just speak from it.
Okay, thank you so much, Victor, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Rachel Wanjiru. As earlier stated, I am a freelancer, and I've been doing that since last year, and I majorly concentrate on writing. And basically, I joined a Jira program last year, and I had a training, and with that, after a short time, I managed to get into online writing, although it was not easy at first. It was a bit challenging as a new beginner, but I was lucky enough to find someone who worked with me, who mentored me through the process. And after a short while, I was able to pick up and stabilized in writing. And since then, I've been gaining experience. And one thing that I want to highlight is that online work is work, as earlier the PS stated, and like what maybe other people think. They have some myths about online work. They think it's just work for those people maybe who don't have anything to do, but it's just work like any other. The way you would go to an office and sit down and work on something, the same case with online work. And I have found it to be very beneficial and advantageous, because I've been making good money from it, and I can work from any part I want to work from. I don't have to be in an office, can be in my home and still work. And I want to say that there are so many platforms and there are so many opportunities of work that are available, especially to the young people. And with so many people, I've realized that many people in Kenya nowadays are investing most of their time seeking for jobs elsewhere in offices, stomaching from one office to the other. But I've realized that you can use whichever skill as a young person, whichever skill you have learned, you can use it to work online. And there are so many skills, and there's a high demand of so many skills online. And jobs vary from writing to transcription, data analysis.
Rachel, if I may ask you something, it's been 1 year since you began online working as a content writer. Could you just tell us your experience with the interface you had with the Jira digital program? This is for the rest of the youth listening in to know about your experience.
Yes, so I learned about Jira through a friend. I was in a process of looking for work. Then I heard about Jira. I went through the training. Okay, basically what Jira trains about is they give you an overview of what online work is. They make you are brought into understanding the platforms and the various kind of work jobs available and the various platforms that you can access this work. And for example, in my training, I got to learn about several platforms that I've been using, such as Upwork, there's Fiverr, there's Guru. And through those platforms, I signed up, and that is where I started now selling my skills, okay, as a writer. And with time, I was able to, with the experience, the more you experience, the more you write, the more you perfect your skills, and the more you get good jobs. So I can say that Jira really played a very big role in impacting me, that because before I didn't know about, I just had this online work, but I didn't know how to go about it. But with the program, I was able to learn about how and the platforms and where to start from, and the platforms you can get these jobs. And I can say it has been a good journey. I don't regret doing online work. I enjoy what I do. And I really encourage, let us as young people, let us not depend on others or seeking jobs out there. Whatever skill you have, if it's web development, seek to invest and grow that career as you work online. There's an opportunity for you, and you can work for various clients, various people, and at the end of the day, you'll be able to make good money.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that encouragement, and your testimony is really uplifting the many youth that are listening in. Colleagues, my panelists, and the participants listening in, we are in the final leg of this webinar, and I want to open it up again for Q&A. I'll be able to pick some of the questions from the group chat, but let me see any burning hands. Evelyn Mongare, please. Okay, can we take in somebody else? Cezanne, maybe you could respond to the early question I asked as we bring in more questions.
Yes, certainly. I think the curfew has certainly had its challenges. And what we've seen is people are not moving around, that things are moving around. I think initially everyone was very much geared up for food delivery. And now as we realize that we also need to get groceries and other items, you know, moving into the delivery of all of those kinds of other goods has really increased. We are really encouraged by the lift in the curfew to 9 p.m. and we hope that at least this week we're going to start to see much more of an uplift there. You know, of course, I think something that we're still very much concentrating on is ensuring the safety of couriers and making sure that even during the delivery process that it's done in a very safe way to minimize the impact of COVID, both on the receiving and delivery end.
Thank you so much. There are a lot of guys here, youths, who are asking, where are these online opportunities you're talking about? So who can respond to that? Are these online work opportunities on the Ajira platform? I think my colleagues from the department, from the project can actually respond to this. Do I have Ehud online?
Thank you, Victor, and everyone for listening in. Yeah, that's a great question. There are many platforms that do offer this type of work, and Ajira does the connection. It's a great place to start, but there are platforms, as we've heard from the different speakers, both local platforms that offers formal jobs. There are those that are offering gig jobs, and we are glad to hear the work that iBuild is doing. There are other platforms like Link. We also have very many other, posts that are also supporting this elaboration. So the Kuhasol of this Kuhasol, which is a local platform. We have Ajire, as mentioned by Patrick, and also other BPOs or business process outsourcing organizations that do support this type of work. They do myriad of work from transcription all the way to virtual assistance. And so it's a great opportunity to sort of, learn from the Ajira portal, which has all this information that young people may be seeking, where they can actually find online work. Over to you, Victor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's a question here, and I think this is driven by the ICT Minister. I think it's, what is the overall view of the Ministry of ICT in terms of what we are promoting? Are we focusing on digitally enabled independent work, or is it about entrepreneurship? What synergies then can the promotion of digital work draw from programs that promote entrepreneurship amongst the youthful population? So this is actually a challenge. What is it? What's our focus? Digitally enabled independent work with its fair challenges and also the pros, or is it entrepreneurship, digitally enabled entrepreneurship that we're talking about?
Victor, can I take that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think my response to that would be, we are promoting both. That actually we are promoting digitally enabled work, and also we are promoting entrepreneurship together with innovation. So it is, as a ministry, and bearing in mind that our focus is on really youth and ensuring that any employment, any decent employment opportunity that is available, we take advantage of. So as a ministry, and I think to couple it, because I've also been following up the various questions that have been coming on board. Somebody also asked, what is the ministry doing in terms of ensuring that we promote innovation and things like that. And I would want to say, actually, as a ministry, we've been really focusing on innovation, and through our ministry, we're also working with Konza. I think you're all aware of our Silicon Savannah, that we're also incubating and actually hosting startups. So there is a lot of effort and work going on. We have what we are calling the white box, whereby we are requesting people to put in their innovation, and also working with the industry players. We go through the evaluation of the various innovations that are submitted, and we take them through various stages and also take them through training. And especially, I would want to emphasize the fact that there has always been concern about intellectual property, especially for the young innovators. And I would want to give them comfort in the sense that as a ministry, we've taken cognizance of that, and we link them up with an institution like KIPI, the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, whereby they get training on how to deal with issues relating to intellectual property. So, I mean, to get back to the answer is yes, we are promoting as a ministry innovation and entrepreneurship. And at the same time, we are saying there are those jobs that are available outside there. Why don't we take advantage of those opportunities? Thank you.
Bwana PS, while you are still on the floor, just allied to what you've just said, digital innovation is actually premised on availability of data. A few years back, there was focus on open data, but there seems to have been some slowdown on that. Is the government willing to create a big data portal to help, the entrepreneurs we are talking about?
I think even with the coming up of the Privacy and Data Protection Bill, I think that has been a big milestone towards ensuring that now we go to the open data framework in a more legalized or in a more structured way. So I think to us, the deployment, the passing of the Privacy and Data Protection Bill was a big step. And I would want to confirm that really we're working towards that direction to ensuring that data is available. But again, data is available within certain legal and legislative framework. So we have policies and legal issues that are anchored on law in terms of availability and exposure of data.
Thank you so much. Tim and Rachel, you may leave your email addresses on the group chat before we close. So I can see a lot of requests to contact you after this webinar. Ken Olo, please.
Oh, thank you. It's nice every time you talk about digital. Oh, sorry, my name is Ken Olo. I'm from Filamu Juani Foundation. We train youth in content creation. We've been doing this for the last 15 years in Kenya, in Congo, in Tanzania. My pain point is that every time we talk about these digital jobs, they're around transcribing and creating apps. There are movie makers here. A film we create employs at least about 60 people on the set. And there are many other people along the value chain. Let's stop reducing digital jobs to apps. Give more resources to us. I think content creation is an enabler. It says culture, it sets a tone, it changes many things. So there are many more youth, especially in this season, who can actually create content for the schools, can create content for the organizations that need to go online. So we keep on wearing this box that makes us see content creations to apps. Yes, M-Pesa is amazing.
I think we lost you, but I get your point, actually. And just to chime in on that point you're raising, again, to the ICT Ministry, Bwana PS, a lot of these innovations we are talking about would need support with incubation, but also catalytic funds. Is this something that the ministry is considering?
Thanks, Victor. As you always, budget is normally a challenge, and now especially moving into this particular space now post-COVID, whereby revenue is coming in slowly, but then government expenditure is really expanding. But then we are looking for partners whom we can, and like you see, even in the Ajira framework, were it not be for the partners, probably would not have gone the far that we have gone. So basically, it's an issue of looking for partnership and resources to ensure that we're able to support more and more innovation. In the film industry, now that it was mentioned, I think as government, we've also tried as much as possible. And through the Kenya Film Commission, we have put an annual film competition. And I think last time we had so very many entries, and actually those ones that did not even make it to the top 3, we still continue to support them in terms of linking them up with other producers. And also we passed as government a film incentive. Actually, what we've realized, and I agree, I don't know who it was, film has an opportunity of creating many more job opportunities. So we created a film incentives, and actually through that film incentive, 2 films have already been shot in the country, and I have recorded that actually more than 300 or close to about 600 of our local people are engaged in this. So there are all these initiatives that as government, because like I said at the beginning, our key concern has always been how do we get our young people on meaningful, on decent employment. So those initiatives are there, and probably maybe I think the question here is we need to talk loudly about them. Probably we are not talking loudly.
Sure. Thanks. Patrick or Daniel from MasterCard Foundation, any comment on that particular question on supporting in incubation and creation of catalytic funds? We are actually on the edge of our time. I would want to close in a minute.
Maybe I can just add something, Victor, on the filmmaking question. Perhaps the thing that comes up in our KEPSA ICT board as the most important intervention for filmmaking is actually in Kenya's restrictive position on drones. And drones actually have a place in many different sectors, including security and agriculture and everything else. But the film guys really have a problem with the regulations in drones. So if there can be any, obviously this is with civil aviation, but if ministry can support the sector on that and help other ministries to pass regulations that will effectively allow drones to be used in filming, that will help.
All right, thank you, Ben, for that comment.
Yeah. So, Victor, just 2 points. The question on catalytic fund. So we have deployed various instruments to support access to finance type of needs. So catalytic funds, revolving funds, these are instruments that we are looking to understand how we can potentially have such an instrument be a play here in Kenya. Today, as we speak, we don't have such instruments, but it is a concept that we are considering. And then in terms of just specifically this sector, the creatives, films, creatives, it is a broad space. It is one that we've seen across the continent be a particularly interesting space for young people. I think Nigeria comes to mind as a country and as a space that actually has been really at the forefront of driving what's possible for developing the space and making it a space that is welcoming for young people. And so this is something that we are looking at today as we speak. None of our programs actually touch on this, but I think going forward, we are looking at it, and understanding the landscape is kind of where we are at this point.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I think we've come to the end of our 2-hour session, and we've eaten into 20 minutes. So we can go on and on, but at least we have to come to the end of it. I've enjoyed the session. I hope you too have enjoyed the session. A lot of things to learn. And I want to thank my panelists, starting with the PS. PS, we're always happy to have you, and we are really, truly grateful for being available anytime we need you. This is a journey we've started, and we have these weekly webinars on Thursdays. I want to thank Lewis Kuhlman, 4 a.m. right now for you. I think you might be running short of your coffee supplies right now, but thanks again to have you on at this very late in the night on your end. My fellow panelists who are on still, we are truly grateful, and the discussants. And I hope the participants who are here have picked one or two things that will help you in your life. This is certainly not the end of discussion on this topic. We will come back maybe in a month or so to continue this discussion on a different front of it. It's a bit expansive and we can't exhaust it in one webinar. So I hope to host you again in the near future. And please get in touch with us. Alex, Nene, you may drop in your email address here before the Zoom closes so that whoever wants to get in touch can reach you. And if you're not a member of KEPSA yet, please, this is the time to come in and learn a lot more about other benefits. If my colleague Anthony is in, please also drop in your email here so that we, those who want to join KEPSA membership can actually also reach you. I want to wish you the very best of the rest of the day, and I enjoyed moderating this session. Thank you very much.
Very much, Asante.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.